Today, I'm talking about fitness trackers, from the Oura Ring to the Apple Watch to the Whoop Band. These little gadgets are packed with data that can give you deep insights into your sleep, your stress levels, your heart, and even your recovery after exercise. But here's the problem. Most people have no idea what all these numbers actually mean. I mean, like, what is HRV? What's a good resting heart rate? And what the heck is sleep latency? Well, that's exactly what we're going to cover today. I'll break down the most common fitness tracker metrics and tell you what's actually worth paying attention to and what you can probably ignore. So let's talk about the Oura Ring. Now, I must admit that I was an early adopter of both the Oura Ring and the Whoop Band, the first generation of both. And let me start by saying this. I love data. When it comes to understanding your health, numbers don't lie. And wearable fitness trackers can give us valuable insights that we could only get in a medical clinic just a few years ago. Now, are they perfect? No. But if you know what to look for, they can act like a daily check-in with your body. They can help you spot trends, catch problems early, and make smart choices about your sleep, your workouts, and even your stress. So let's start with the Oura Ring. Now, this is one of the most popular trackers among biohackers and health nerds, and for pretty good reason. I talk about how much I love mine right here on this channel, all the time. But let's take a look at what it actually tracks. So let's start with heart rate variability, or HRV. Now, HRV measures the time difference, variability, between your heartbeats. And believe it or not, more variability is actually a good thing. Now, unbeknownst to most people, we've always thought that a normal sinus rhythm is regular, that the time from one QRS to the next QRS is always the same. But thanks to computer tracking, we now know that that's not true. And what looks visually as nearly identical is that there is small variations between the distance between these heart rates. So a higher heart rate variability usually means that your nervous system is relaxed and adaptive, and that you're well recovered from the day before. Now, what's a good HRV? Now, that depends on your age, gender, and fitness level. But in general, 60 milliseconds and above is a pretty doggone good target. I can give you some hilarious examples. When I was talking with a representative from Oura a number of years ago at a meeting, and discussing my heart rate variability, which, quite frankly, can be in the 50s and as high as the 90s. He was 27 years old and was showing me his heart rate variability, and it was like 210. And I go, what the heck? How'd you do that? Well, I was, I think, 65 at the time. And he just laughed and said, Grandpa, yours will never be like that. Thanks a lot, kid. But it's true that in general, the younger you are, the higher your heart rate variability is. I was part of a clinical trial where we looked at the ability of heart rate variability to predict who was going to have sudden death from a cardiac arrhythmia or heart attack. And in fact, there was very good correlation between a low heart rate variability and more worrisome signs of sudden death or heart attacks. Now, it's not universal. I take care of a number of older athletes who have heart rate variabilities in the 20s consistently, and they're really healthy, and they have incredibly low beating heart rates, resting heart rates, usually in the 40s. So all is not lost if your heart rate variability is low. On the other hand, what you like to do is follow your heart rate variability. For instance, when my wife and I are hiking in France or Italy and putting in, 8, 10 miles a day in the hills, my heart rate variability can go up to 100, 110. But if I'm sitting around like a slug, my heart rate variability can come down to the 30s. So a lot of times it is exercise related. On the other hand, that's not a perfect system. What else can lower heart rate variability? Number one, anything that changes the balance between your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system can change heart rate variability. So it could be a sign of stress. It could be a sign of inflammation, poor sleep, even overtraining can do it. Also, alcohol before bedtime often suppresses heart rate variability. Recently, I tried an experiment where I took a very popular memory supplement called Huperzine A, which is a acetylcholine esterase blocker. If that word sounds familiar, a lot of the Alzheimer's drugs are acetylcholine esterase blockers. And one of the things that happened, as I anticipated, is my heart rate variability went into the toilet. It went to like 10 or 12. As soon as I stopped taking Huperzine A, my heart rate variability within a couple of days was back up to normal. That's because it totally changed my sympathetic nervous system. Now, that's not to say don't take Huperzine A. That just means that if you're following heart rate variability, it's not going to be useful. Next up, resting heart rate. Now, this is the number of times your heart beats per minute when you're totally at rest. Now, usually it's while you're sleeping, and a lower number is generally better. Now, for most people, somewhere between 50 and 65 is ideal. Elite athletes usually have resting heart rates in the 40s. My wife, who is a great athlete, almost always has resting heart rates in the mid-40s. I usually have resting heart rates around 47 to 49. I really can't beat her. But here's the trick. Do not obsess over one night of data. It's all about the trend. If your resting heart rate suddenly jumps 10 points overnight, you actually may be coming down with something. Or maybe you just had too much wine or a big dinner or a late night snack. So what you want to do is you want to demo your own data. So what else can we get from these devices? Let's talk about sleep latency and REM. Now, sleep latency is how long it takes you to fall asleep. If you fall asleep in under 5 minutes, well, you might be overtired. But you might be my wife, Penny. She can fall asleep in less than 30 seconds. Me, not so much. And I can assure you that she's not overtired. She's just very talented. If it takes you more than 30 minutes, it could be stress. It could be caffeine, or it could be blue light exposure. Most people, 15 to 20 minutes is about the right spot. Okay, what about the REM sleep? Now that's the dream stage. REM is important for brain health and emotional regulation. Now you want about 20 to 25% of your total sleep to be in REM. Now the Oura Ring and the Whoop band breaks all this down. And the readiness score puts it into one simple number. If it's low, take it easy that day. Now, the hilarious thing about this data is depending on the device you choose, you may get completely different answers for these cycles. Let me give you an example. A couple of years ago, Oura decided to change their deep sleep measurement system based on working with a renowned sleep center's results. And up until that point, Oura had quite a bit of deep sleep that would register on their ring. After they recalibrated it, almost everybody's deep sleep went into the toilet. And I spent months assuring my patients that they're not doing something wrong. It's the Oura Ring changes, and to not obsess on this. Now, how did I know that? Well, I also wear a Whoop band. Now, we'll talk about the Whoop band in a second, but the Whoop band didn't change their deep sleep program. And so every morning I have great fun comparing the data on the Oura Ring to the Whoop band. And guess what? They're really different on a lot of things. First of all, the HRV, the heart rate variability, is spot on with both of these devices. They almost always agree. The Oura Ring consistently says my resting heart rate is, like I say, in the high 40s. The Whoop band says my resting heart rate is in the low 50s. Is that a big deal? No. But if I'm obsessed with having my resting heart rate under 50, then I should be doing something more to get my Whoop band to pay attention. But let's not obsess. The best part is the Whoop band, when my Oura Ring, like today, said I got 15 minutes of deep sleep, my Whoop band said, hey, good news, you got an hour and 34 minutes of deep sleep. Huh? I was sleeping in the same place. The point is they're using different algorithms. Now, one of the things I like about the Whoop band is that in the deep sleep algorithm, most deep sleep occurs early in the sleep cycle. And that's when it should happen, when we do brain washing, where our brain literally goes through a wash cycle. And the Whoop band, that's when it's picking up deep sleep. The Oura Ring doesn't track that way. The other thing I'm impressed with the Whoop band is I pretty much remember my dreams. I pretty much remember when I'm dreaming. And interesting, the Whoop band, at least for me, is extremely accurate about my dream states. The Oura Ring, not so much. Before we leave the Oura Ring, one thing I love about the Oura Ring is that it has a GPS tracker built in, so that it knows literally my GPS route. Now, sometimes it goofs, and if you're going up hills, it won't give you the credit. Let me assure you that steps that any of these bands measure have nothing to do with how far you've actually gone. Please do not go out and use these things for steps. They're totally inaccurate. Okay, the Whoop band is actually very popular among athletes and performance junkies. Now, it tracks many of the same metrics as the Oura Ring, but it puts a bigger focus on strain, how hard your body is working out throughout the day. Now, the strain score goes from 0 to 21. Now, don't assume you need to max it out every day. That's a fast track to burnout. The strain actually comes from the fact that they actually measure some electrolytes, let's use the word sweat, in your skin. And that part of the strain is not only how your heart rate is changing, but also whether you're sweating a little bit. And so a person who sweats a lot will get higher strain scores than a person who doesn't sweat a lot. My wife Penny recently started to use the upgraded Whoop band, which also does an EKG for you when you want, and has been very frustrated that her personal trainer, who also got the same Whoop band a few weeks earlier, they would do the same workout. And her personal trainer, who's about her age, got better strain scores than she did. And she's mad. The personal trainer is well known for her ability to sweat at the slightest provocation. In fact, she was known for her sweating as a high school basketball player. My wife doesn't sweat. So it's no wonder that they can do the same exercise with the same weights, with the same intensity, and my wife will get a much lower strain score. And I have to explain this to her every night when she's obsessing about it. So use it as trends. Don't use it for, oh my gosh, I'm not working hard enough on this exercise, or I'm not pushing myself hard enough at the gym. But the fun thing about this device is that it's pretty accurate, and it's so accurate that early on, a lot of professional football players and basketball players use the Whoop band to tell them whether they should go harder or they've had a bad day and they should go easy. They've started believing the data so much that NFL and NBA asked Whoop to not allow the athletes to see their data on the morning of a game. They became so obsessed with it. And that's the point. You can't obsess yourself with this data. Now, here's the other thing I've learned with the Whoop and the Oura. They both look at heart rate, and they both use a very similar sensing mechanism. It's a green light that you can see underneath the band. The Oura Ring, because it's connected, literally, it's kind of looking at little arteries that line the side of your finger. The Whoop band doesn't do that. And so the Oura Ring, for me, is much more accurate on heart rate, particularly when you're vigorously exercising. I get a chuckle when I'm out hiking with the dogs that the Oura Ring says, hey, your maximum heart rate was 125. And the Whoop band is saying, whoa, your maximum heart rate was 205. I can assure you, if my heart rate was 205, number one, I would know it. And number two, I might be dead. So I get a chuckle because this is not as accurate as heart rate. So on the other hand, the Whoop band has a really cool feature. I'll show you. I can put my two fingers right here and hold it for 30 seconds after pushing a button on my cell phone. And it'll give me a really high quality EKG to look at. I can see whether I'm having extra beats. I can see whether I'm in atrial fibrillation. Never have been, but you never know. And I can see what my EKG looks like. The Oura Ring can't do that. And I get a kick out of when the Whoop says my heart rate is 205, it's actually 120 by EKG. So Whoop also measures recovery and sleep staging. It shows you how much time you spend in deep sleep versus REM, but serve different functions. So for me, the Whoop band is better at sleep scores. On the other hand, the Oura Ring tracks GPS and is certainly better with heart rate. They're identical so far for heart rate variability. So that's the two differences between those two. Finally, let's talk about the Apple Watch. Now, it may not be as specialized as the other, but it's come a long way, especially with the newer models. They give you a cardio fitness score, also called VO2 max. Now, so does the Whoop band. Now, this tells you how efficiently your body uses oxygen during exercise. In general, higher numbers mean better cardiovascular health and a better chance of living a long, active life. Now, ideally, you want your VO2 max to be in the 40s or higher, but a lot of this depends on your age and activity level. Now, Apple also tracks HRV and resting heart rate. Now, while it's not quite as sensitive as Oura or Whoop, the trends over time can still be helpful. If you're noticing a drop in HRV and a rise in resting heart rate, that's a sign your body's under stress. The Apple Watch can also monitor blood oxygen levels, just like the Whoop and the Oura. And it can even take an EKG, which is useful for people with heart conditions. And how about those movement alerts that you get from them? You know, they might seem silly, but standing up once an hour can actually boost your mitochondrial health and support better blood flow. So yes, I do recommend paying attention to those. So are these fitness trackers worth it? Well, I'd say yes, as long as you use them to guide your habits, not control them. Look for trends, listen to what your body is telling you, and let the data help you make better choices every day. Now, buyer beware. These are interesting, but not hard science. Let me give you one final example. Both my Oura Ring and my Whoop Band give me basically, the Oura Ring gives me my cardiovascular age. My Whoop Band tells me my health span age. So this morning, my Oura Ring was pleased to tell me that my cardiovascular age is 10.5 years younger than my actual age. Meantime, my Whoop was telling me that my age was 3.2 years younger than my actual age. So who did I believe today? The Oura Ring won big over the Whoop. Tomorrow, it might be a different story. The point is, look for trends, have a good time with them. More amazing episodes just like this one. Watch now. Turkey tail also supports healthy blood flow and heart function, and it's a strong antioxidant in itself.